You just follow your dreams, you gotta live your life. I'll give you something to believe in, I'ma be the reason.
Hey, what's up everybody, this is Sir Miguel. You can follow me at Sir Miguel Barber on Instagram. I created this video, guys, because I wanted to share, some tips on a crispy shape up. I haven't been cutting hair too long. I started cutting hair February, and I really wish that somebody would have just taught me some of these little shortcuts or tips that would have made cutting hair, especially in the beginning, a little bit easier. And so hopefully these tips help you out. So here we are with 5 tips, and we're gonna kick it off with tip number 1. As you can see, guys, I'm looking in the mirror with the client. So it's so important, so critical that you look at the in the mirror with the client and kind of assess where you're gonna go before you even attack the hairline. If you see, I'm looking in the mirror. Her hairline's pretty even, but there are some higher points on her right side, especially like towards the middle. So I just decided, overall her hairline's pretty even. However, I did decide to go into the right side. But again, you're looking at the C cups, you're looking at the side, the top. You want to make sure you're just looking in there first before you decide, okay, this is where I'm going with this. Because oftentimes, people go right into the shape up and then there's no start or end to it. It's like, let me do a little bit here, and then we go to the other side, do a little bit here, and then try to find that balance later versus just, let me get the game plan at the beginning. Also, a tip, this is not one of the 5 tips, but what I would say is you always want to start on the higher side. Oftentimes you'll start on the lower side of the hairline, and then once you get to the other side, you clean it up, and then you realize, oh wait, now I gotta go back and clean that line up. So to avoid that, you want to start on the higher side. Tip number 2, take your time. All right, guys, so one thing I would tell you is that while there are some clients that the shape up is not the most important thing, most clients are like looking forward to the shape up part. It's like the sprinkles on the cake or the bow on the suit, right? So it's that finishing touch. And so what I would say is that if there's any time taking in any part of your haircut, it really needs to be in your shape up, because again, that's really gonna create that balanced look. And really, if you mess up a shape up, it's really one of the biggest, or rather the most obvious mistake in a haircut. Like, you look at it, you're like, okay, I can see that, versus maybe there's a little bit mistake in the fade, can't really pay attention to that, but you definitely can see when somebody's shape up is crooked. So I would say take your time. That's tip number 2. Tip number 3, guys, is you should always have a brush in your hand. Davey, if you're listening to this, Davey was my instructor in ABI, American Barber Institute, and he would always tell me, make sure you have your brush in your hand. And what I would tell you too is that why it's so important to have your brushes, because even when you start hitting the hairline with the trimmer, oftentimes you'll brush the hair down and then you'll find even longer hair coming back down. And so you always want to make sure you brush it to the left, to the right. And so, because if the client is wearing her hair natural, if he's wearing his hair natural, you're going to find hairs that have fallen into the hairline, into the shape up, and then it's like, okay, it doesn't look as clean as you want it to look. But oftentimes, like, if you don't feel like that shape up is super clean, you brush the hair, you hit it again, and you keep hitting it, and then you're not going higher or anything like that. You're just going to keep hitting it and brushing it until you can get the cleanest lines. So always have a brush in your hand. Okay, so that's tip number 3. Tip number 4, guys, is you can and you should use a pencil to trace. I love using a pencil to trace. I definitely feel like when you don't use a pencil, that's fine. It's not the most important thing. However, I think it's a great way to kind of outline where you're going to go with the shape up before you actually cut hair off. But also, it really highlights the hairlines, especially when you're looking in the mirror with the client. You can see a lot better when you're tracing the hairline. And also, when you finish shaving it up, it also leaves that clean finish. I'm not a big fan of enhancements when you're doing a shape up, and I only say that because I love what the client looks like when they leave, but then that magic that spark is gone when they wake up the next day if they wash their hair, because it washes off, right? But if you're creating a very clean shape up without the enhancements, that client's hair is going to look good for a few days, and they'll be really happy that their shape up looks really good without the enhancements. But again, I'm not opposed to enhancements, but the client can't do it themselves. I like using enhancements on myself, especially because I know what I'm doing. But unless your client knows what they're doing, they're probably going to prefer to have a crispy hairline without enhancements. But that's just my opinion. So tip number 4, use the pencil to create and shape and trace before you attack it with the trimmer. Tip number 5, and the last tip, and this is especially when you go in with the shave with the blade. So it's important that you're moving the skin around, guys. So you're not gonna just pull the skin one way to get the blade to fit in, especially when you're going into like the C cups. You may have to pull left, you may have to pull right, but I would say play with it, especially if you want to work into the C cup. You're probably not just going to pull down, you're actually going to probably pull down left or down right, depending on where you need to get into the hairline. So as you can see here, like I'm shaving with the front of the blade and I'm shaving up, but I'm pulling the skin like down left, well, my left. So I'm pulling the skin down left and then I'm shaving up right. But don't be afraid to pull the skin, and that's going to be the best way to really meet the hairline with the blade, especially for those hard to reach corners. But that's going to give you that really clean, crispy line. So move and pull the skin. That's tip number 5. All right, guys, and as you can see, Shayla's hairline is looking pretty crispy. And so again, that's because I took my time. Again, we kept brushing our hairline. And again, I love using that pencil just to really create those highlights. Speaking of pencils, guys, there is a brand of pencils for barbers called Black Lace. I found them on Amazon. They're really good for, especially for like deeper skin tones, because the white sometimes is a little bit stark, but they have a great tan pencil. Javon was another peer of mine in school, and he gave me that tip, and so I bought those on Amazon. They're really good, so I would definitely recommend using those for deeper skin tone. You could use the white, but the tan, the client can walk out looking really fresh and crispy without looking like they have a white pencil on their scalp if they're a deeper skin tone. All right, guys, and so if hopefully you found these tips helpful, and definitely share this video if there's someone you think can benefit from this. Also, I'd love to hear some other tips, right? I only shared 5, but if you have some other tips on how to really create a crispy hairline, please leave a comment below, and let me know what you have feedback about what I have to say, or if you have some other tips that you can share with others as well, all right? And if you love this video and you want to see similar content, please let me know what things you want to learn, and then if I have tips, I'll share with you. If I don't, I'll find out and then I'll share with you too. All right, guys, so thanks again for watching. And again, follow me at Sir Miguel Barber on Instagram. Okay, we got some fun stuff coming. So thank you guys for watching. Look at that smile. Yes, thank you, Shayla, for being my model.
Artlist.io